And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Hoops HD Under the Radar podcast. Coming to you a special edition here on a Tuesday evening
Yeah.
because I am
Why are?
not.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm a
Uh,
little confused why we're not doing this on Wednesday like we normally do.
well, we do normally do it on Wednesday, David. Unfortunately, tomorrow night I plan to be extremely inebriated.
What?
I'm going to a bourbon tasting dinner up here in New
A,
Jersey.
a bourbon tasting? A
Yeah,
bourbon tasting?
like
Oh, I
whiskey.
didn't.
No,
Okay, we're going to a bourbon tasting tomorrow.
I didn't say we. I said
What?
me.
Well, I can make it. We don't have the show, so I can make it tomorrow.
Well, I don't
Where's
think
this?
you're
Where's this
allowed.
bourbon tasting?
I'm not going to tell you.
Uh, why not?
Because I want to not get arrested tomorrow night.
I don't understand why you think. What? I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna
Um,
find it.
oh,
A
great.
bourbon tasting.
Uh,
Bourbon tasting. Oh, there's some.
there
That
goes
was
the word.
whiskey. Yes, I'm gonna bring my own bourbon.
No, that was Jim Beam. I think it is Jim Beam that's going to be there
Yeah.
tomorrow night too. I think Mr. Beam himself maybe, but
Oh boy, bourbon tasting. I can't wait.
oh great. Well, we will be back Thursday night again with our bracket rundown. So hopefully we'll be back Thursday evening because David and I might both be in jail depending on if he finds out where it is. But
I'm
we
gonna.
do we did want to go. This is our Under the Radar podcast where we go over all the teams that are not in the major conferences. We're going to go through all 20 some odd conferences that are not considered multi-bid conferences. Those multi-bid conferences being the American, the ACC, the A10, Big East, Big 10, Big 12, Mountain West Pac-12, SEC. We really went over those last night in the Bracket Racket. Check out that podcast for more information on those teams. Uh, we also will not be going over teams that are in the top 25, which are Gonzaga, Wichita State, and Northern Iowa. Those are no longer under the radar either. Um,
Right.
but before we even get into it, Dave, we wanted to do something quickly here just to kind of promote ourselves, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we've gone from dozens to hundreds over the course of a few months. We've kind of been around a while, and we decided to. I guess it was last year or the year before. Kind of take what was an email personal chat room and throw it up online and see what happened. And then we kind of decided to promote it a little bit just on social media. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing grand. It's kind of growing through word of mouth. As we said, a lot of us have ties to athletics, and it's kind of like our own little personal playground. That's kind of how we view it. And again, we've gone from dozens to hundreds, so we realize that although our audience is very small, it's growing. And what are some of the things that we have to offer, Chad?
Well, just looking at our website,
Besides my brilliance, good looks, and expert advice.
exactly, hoopshd.com. That right at the top of it, there's about one, two, three, four, five, nine different tabs there. The home tab is our updated main homepage where you will see the links to our latest podcasts, our under the radar game of the day, our highlighted games of the day, all kinds of any noteworthy information that we decide to just post out there will always be there on the homepage. You can scroll down and look at some of the older stuff. Um, we're not full of graphics. We're not intensive with all that stuff. We don't have
No.
little symbols for each team
Right.
because we don't have a corporate sponsor yet, but we're working on that. Uh,
Yeah. But
Mr. Beam.
yeah, well, I mean, again, I'll see him tomorrow at the bourbon tasting.
Uh, there's also an About Us tab with little information about some of the contributors here. The third tab up there is bracket projections. You can look at our latest bracket right there on that tab. We update that once a week, pretty much through this point in the season. Going forward, I think we're going to be doing twice a week updates on our bracket,
Yeah.
midweek and over the weekends, and then maybe even daily by the time we get to championship week. But we'll see how that works
Most
out.
likely, yes.
Uh,
Um,
there's also a tab here for conference tournament information. Anything you need to know about dates, matchups, TV information for the conference tournament information is all
Locations,
there. Location,
formats.
form,
Yeah.
everything. Uh, this is honestly this is the most comprehensive one I've been able to find out there. And well, hey, I wrote it, so.
Right.
But and I do keep that updated every time I find out there's new information. Game time has changed. If I hear
Yeah.
about it. And if anybody out there hears something that's wrong, let me know right away. I will get that updated.
Right.
We have Joby's nitty gritty rankings. David,
Yeah.
you understand them a little more. Why don't you explain those?
Well, I don't essentially, like, he takes four components of what he thinks the selection committee looks at. It's RPI. Uh, Actually, I don't. It's written at the top. He somehow takes what he thinks the committee looks at, and he has this mathematical formula that he comes up with and posts them there. So, yeah, it's basically our own power rankings, and the basis for it, the variables are what the committee emphasizes and looks at, such as RPI, quality wins, national ranking, which they don't really look at the polls per se, but they do look at the NABC rankings, which operate much like the polls do. And I forget what the other one is. Strength of schedule.
Right. Yeah. So
You know.
we look at those rankings. Those are our rankings. We've
I
got.
really don't know how the hell the rankings work. Did I make it sound like at least I have a basic idea?
Well, tune in Thursday night if we get Joby here. Maybe we can ask him again, and we'll get a little
Yeah.
more detail on that for everybody. We're doing really good tonight so far, aren't we?
Yeah.
Next tab up there, we got the live video streaming guide. That's another tab that I personally put together. Any games that are not televised, you can find out how to watch them. We discussed this before, that almost every game in college basketball is now available through some means or another. The vast majority of them for free. There's, if you see a conference that says there's nothing available, like, say, the Summit League,
Yeah.
write a nasty email to their commissioner, tell them to get a package together.
Because they need one.
Yeah. We've got our links to our message board. We've got a tab there to tell you who the current NCAA Tournament Selection Committee is. We got a tab about social media, and we have our survival board.
Love the
David,
survival
this is one
board.
of your favorites here.
Yeah. And what it is, it's just that. It's everybody that is mathematically still alive for their conference tournament and in theory could win the NCAA tournament. And we're going to start updating that probably here in about a week or two. And again, it's just teams that are locked, teams that are on the bubble, teams that need to win the conference tournament but are still playing. And the other one is the automatic bids. So you're not going to start seeing those pop up until championship week. But it is. And right now we have 334 teams on it. We didn't have the heart to do this on the air. We've already had to remove a few because of APR bans, Southern Miss's self-imposed ban, and the one that killed us. It kept me up all night, but we made an executive decision that NJIT will not get an at-large bid.
Right. NJIT, normally we save NJIT as one of our last teams we discuss, but why don't we transition over to the conferences and we'll still run things a little backwards and start with NJIT.
Yeah.
Big win last night over Hampton. Do want to apologize on the bracket last night. I said they beat Howard. It was Hampton they beat last night.
Yeah, the team of the people.
And then they won tonight, back-to-back nights. They pounded Delaware State.
Yeah.
They are now 14-10. And David, coming up this Saturday, they have a game against a Division II opponent. It is, well, I don't even know if it's a Division II opponent. It's a non-Division I opponent. If we can get the name of this team up here, possibly, maybe not. They are playing Fisher College on Saturday.
Oh boy, what do we know about Fisher College?
If they win this game, they will have clinched a winning record for the season.
Woohoo! And
be CIT eligible.
Yeah, and they're NIT eligible. They're CIT eligible, and CBI if they want to pay the price. But we want a postseason tournament for this team. We realize the NCAA and the NIT aren't happening. The CBI is a pay-for-play tournament, and I really don't like the Gazelle group. So what we are looking for is the CIT. I hope they consider them. It's a 32-team field. They deserve it. I really think, and I realize that invitationals such as the CIT are not entirely merit-based. I would hope that their story is intriguing enough that the CIT would want them.
And what I want to do is I want to do a call out here for all our Hoops HD fans.
Yes.
We're going to get the information after sometime next week for the CIT's Twitter feed, their Facebook page.
College Basketball Insider. I mean, they have all that. They got Facebook, Twitter. We're going to bomb them.
We want them bombed. We want all of our fans out there bombing them and telling them, take NJIT. Take them. They are the people's team. They're an independent. Our country is founded on independence. That's what it's about.
They need something to go right for them. This is a team that has had so much go against it. They deserve it. They really, really deserve it. I
I'm
mean,
not even saying they need to be at a home game. I know they've only
yeah,
got 1,000 seats in there. They only seat 1,000 people in their arena. It's a small arena. Um, maybe they could get into the Prudential Center but I don't think that would happen. Even though it's only about a short walk from their campus, but they'll go on the road. We're okay with that. Just put them
right,
in the field.
right, agreed.
Uh, from there, David, let's swing back to and run through the conferences themselves, and let's begin as we always do with the America East.
Yeah, I mean, you get thrown sometimes. We all
Yeah.
do.
The America East, Albany undefeated in conference play. We're down to a very small handful of teams that are still undefeated in their conferences. Albany now up to 9-0, undefeated. Had that huge win at Vermont.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know that they have won all their tough games for the season in terms of conference play.
right. Yeah, I think so. And they could run the table, although it wouldn't be overly surprising to see them kind of stub their toes and slip up. But I mean, really, the home court advantage throughout the whole conference tournament is theirs to lose.
Yeah, I mean they've already won at Vermont. They've already won at Stony Brook, at Hartford, at New Hampshire. Those are the top 4 teams after them in the conference. And look at their schedule. I mean, they still have a Vermont game at home. They still have Stony Brook and Hartford at home. Their toughest game remaining is a non-conference tilt they have February 13th at NJIT.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the People's team, they lose that when it's not that big of a deal. It's hard to go into the People's Arena and win. I don't know, God.
That won't affect. That probably won't affect anything if they lose it, whether they win or lose that game. It definitely won't affect the most important thing for them, which is home court advantage.
Home court advantage for the conference tournament. Yeah.
Another conference that does have home court advantage for the conference tournament is the Atlantic Sun, and we've been touting this North Florida team for a while now.
Yeah.
Looking at the conference standings, they've actually been caught, David.
Yeah, they have. Gulf Coast has caught them. Gulf Coast is not as good as we thought they were in November and December, and probably not as good as they were in November and December. I mean, they've really gone out and struggled after looking really good early on, but they have looked good by ASUN standards. They've looked as good as anyone else. They've caught North Florida. This is going to be an exciting sprint to the finish to see who ends up getting home court advantage. They have some bizarre tiebreaker in this conference, don't they?
Well, they do, but right now, the first tiebreaker being head-to-head, their North Florida's only loss was the loss at Gulf Coast, and they do play again on February 25th. So that may decide the regular season championship there.
How did they? Because Mercer and Gulf Coast were tied last year, and it was and they split the series. It was a really bizarre way that they broke the tie, but I don't remember what it was. And Gulf Coast won the tiebreaker. I don't know if it was RPI. It was something that struck me as very arbitrary.
Yeah, it was something.
I don't remember what.
I think they went to like the 5th or 6th tiebreaker. It was really a weird situation though last year.
Okay, yeah.
Moving over to the Big Sky Conference, we're in the same situation I think we were last week when we discussed these teams. Eastern Washington and Sacramento State both tied in the loss column, although Sacramento State's 9-1, while Eastern is only 7-1 at this point.
Right, and I do think Eastern will catch them. I just think they're the better team. They should host and they should win. I don't think they've lost at home this year, have they, or did somebody get them at home?
Eastern Washington's only losses on the season were all on the road at SMU, at Washington, at Sam Houston, at Cal, and at Sacramento State.
Okay, and again, they did lose at Sac State. Sac State does come back there. And again, when you're hosting at home and you haven't lost at home, that's a huge advantage. So, again, dead heat, but I do think Eastern Washington pulls out this league.
Right. That game is coming up February 12th, a week from next week. And, that's, probably our under-the-radar game of the day for that day already. So.
Right. And, again, it's a huge stakes game. I mean, I realize we have the tournament, but where it's played has a huge impact on the potential outcome. So.
And I'll tell you, of the Big Sky Conference, and I've followed this conference for years. I've always kind of enjoyed watching their games. To see these two teams as the teams battling for the top is just almost mind-blowing.
Bizarre. Yeah, I mean, because we're used to seeing not these two teams.
Yeah, it's normally Montana, Weber State, maybe every
Yeah.
now and then like a Northern Arizona or Portland State sneaks in the
Mhm.
discussion, but and Eastern Washington's had a few good years. Sacramento State has never had a season like this.
Right. Okay.
Down in the Big South Conference,
Wow.
High Point
Listen,
has now, for the second time this year, lost to one of the top teams at home.
yeah, Tennessee, they trailed the whole game. That was a really exciting game tonight against Radford. Radford had a lead, and at times it was a comfortable lead. Now, High Point came back. It was a great crowd. I'm assuming you watched it.
Yes.
Really exciting crowd at this game. Fans were really into it, and when they got it down to 3, or was it even 2, you kind of felt like High Point was going to get it done, but they didn't. A really good win for Radford, and this is a Radford team that we're not used to seeing at the top of the standings. Now, again, we made this point last week, Chad. Here is what is frustrating about the Big South. We have High Point, Radford, Coastal, Gardner-Webb, Charleston Southern, Winthrop, and Asheville. That's 7 teams separated by 1 game. And you're thinking, oh my God, that's amazing. This is a really intense conference, really high stakes games because, well, it doesn't mean anything because the conference championship is predetermined, not campus sites. They're killing themselves. Oh, why are they doing this, John?
And we could have a situation here where Coastal Carolina, if they're the 4 seed, and High Point or Radford wins this conference by a game or 2, it has to play the host team for the conference tournament in the semifinals.
Right.
It's exactly what happened in the America East last year that led the America East to drop the format.
Right.
But maybe I got to root for that so the Big South gets smarter and drops the format as well.
Well, first of all, campus sites are just a fairer way of doing things. A. B. It's a better way of doing things because look at the storylines you would have with all of these games with 7 teams separated by just 1 game. If campus sites were how you did the tournament, I mean, imagine the intensity, the stakes, everything from the rest of the season on. But instead, all you're playing for is what color jersey you're going to be wearing in the conference tournament. It's frustrating. We say it every week, but it's frustrating every week to see a really good league, a competitive league, a fun league screw itself over like that.
It really is, and it continues to make no sense to me. Not in this league. I guess another league that also plays its conference tournament at a predetermined site in Anaheim is the Big West. Three-way tie right now at the top here.
Right.
Davis, UC Irvine, and this Long Beach State team that you were more sold on all season than I was, and you're slowly winning me over on them, David.
Yeah, Long Beach again. They're climbing the RPI. I believe are they in the top 60 yet?
Their RPI as of right now is exactly 60.
Okay, so it's creeping up, and remember they're above 500 now, or I think they're right at 500, with about
12 and 11. They're 1 over. I think.
Okay, they're 1 over. Are all those D1 wins though?
No.
Okay, so D1. I think D1 they're right at 500, but either way,
they're 1 on. They have 2 non-D1 games, so they're 10 and 11 against D1.
Right, and if they keep winning at the club they're winning, their winning percentage, it's gone from 380 to 500. It's probably going to land around 700. That's a huge, significant jump. Whereas you look at other teams right now, like I just got Maryland up here at 18-4. Their winning percentage is not going to improve much because it can't. It's already really high. I mean, even if they win out, you're only talking about 3 or 4 percentage points. Like with Long Beach, you're talking about 500 to 700. That is going to boost their RPI up. It will continue to go up. I think it will end up in the top 40, and they might get the attention of the committee with such a healthy RPI and a tough strength of schedule. Another team from this conference, and this is one, it's kind of unfortunate that there's almost no way this team will land inside the bubble, and they'll have to rely on the conference tournament. But I think one of the feel-good stories, not of the Big West, but just of college basketball in general, is this UC Davis team.
Yeah, and the job that Jim Les has done there this year has been absolutely
phenomenal.
Absolutely phenomenal. Taking this team that was when he took it over 4 years ago, 5-26,
Yeah.
14-17, 9-22 last year. Um, I mean, he did a pretty good job at Bradley before this. I
He
thought
did a very good job.
he thought he really did.
Yeah. Now, I realize they ended up, I don't know if he was fired or their contract wasn't renewed, but they decided to part ways. But, I mean, this was a guy that took Bradley to the Sweet 16. I don't think they've ever been as good before or since. And this might sound heartless, but I'm just going to say it. He had a really hard time getting a lot of the players they wanted because of Bradley's academics, and they didn't use special admits for athletes, as I understand it. So he would recruit a kid and get him to buy in, but then he would have trouble getting him enrolled. It was just really difficult to win there, but he did win there, and now he's winning at Davis. This is amazing. Their arena's full. It's an electric atmosphere. They're in a three-way tie for first. They will be in the NIT, I would imagine. It would be a shame if the NIT passed them over, but in order to get to the NCAAs, I think they would need to win the conference tournament. Or maybe not. I don't know. Do you foresee any way they get in without the automatic?
No, now without the automatic bid. I mean, even if they won out, there are only two big road games left, which are the only two things that could really boost their resume, are at Irvine this week, at Long Beach on February 19th. Obviously, if they could win the conference regular season title, they're guaranteed an NIT bid at least.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be an interesting. Hopefully, these two teams, Long Beach and Davis, can meet in the Big West Championship game. I think it would be an exciting game. What happened last year at the Big West tournament, remember the 7th seed Cal Poly came out of nowhere, won the whole thing. So
we really don't want that.
It's kind of funny that you root for the underdogs on one hand, but on the other hand, when you take away the chance of a team that would be such a good story like UC Davis, or such a good team like Long Beach from making the tournament by having someone like Cal Poly win the automatic bid, kind of frustrates you a little bit too.
It really does, and they use a ladder. It's not at campus sites, but there is something to be said about buying into the semis. UC Irvine, worth a mention. We really liked them coming into the year. We were really unimpressed with them in November and December. Now I think they're starting to look like the team we thought they would. It's just unfortunate that they weren't able to pick up a couple big wins, and they really did have some clues out of conference as well.
I mean, one of the big problems this year was we really thought that Mamadou Ndiaye would be a big factor. He's played a total of 6 games with injuries. He's really been a non-factor this season, and the fact that they are tied for first place is kind of a testament to the rest of the team.
Right.
Over in the Colonial, William and Mary has now opened up a 1-game lead over Northeastern and Wilmington. Hofstra's kind of fading to the back now. They were a team that were watching earlier in the year. I really think this Bill and Mary team is about to kind of push the rest of the conference into the back at this point.
I think they will. And again, this is what you run into. Is that it's the tournament's at a predetermined site and it's standard, so nothing is done to help out the champion. The reason we haven't really been upset about that in the past is because until recently, this was a league that not every year, but 3 years out of 5 would have their regular season champion in a position to not need an automatic bid anyway. The VCU, Old Dominion. Not Richmond, but when those teams were in this conference, it was George Mason in this conference.
Well, Richmond was in this conference for a while.
Richmond was in this conference a while ago, but you had basically, and then Drexel had some really good teams as well. You were used to seeing the first place team be inside the bubble, not all the time, but a lot of the time. Is it time for this conference to consider campus sites, Chad?
Well, I'm not as offended by where they're playing their tournament. They're playing it in Baltimore, and maybe it's just because Towson is down this year as opposed to where they were last year.
Yeah.
I mean, no other team in this conference is really that close to Baltimore, so it is. I mean, at least for the top teams here of Bill and Mary, Northeastern, UNC Wilmington, James Madison, even Hofstra, they all. I mean, probably William and Mary is the closest of that group to Baltimore in terms of geography. And so I'm not too offended by it this year as I am with the Big South having one of their contenders, Coastal Carolina, hosting the field, or like I was with Albany last year in the America
Yeah.
East.
Right. So, but again, I don't think they're going to move it. I don't think they're going to reformat it anytime soon. There's just no plans to do it. Maybe they're still used to thinking that their first place team can get inside the bubble, which it can be done. I mean, again, and like we always say, as frustrated as we are with the Big South, if you go out there and win in November and December, then you don't need to win the automatic bid. But I don't know. If you're honest with yourself, and more often than not, your only bid is the automatic bid, you might want to look at reformatting the tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
Over in Conference USA, talk about another conference that's running its conference tournament at a predetermined site of a team that's probably going to finish in third or fourth place in the conference standings.
Yeah.
Conference USA tournament this year is in Birmingham, Alabama, for what may be UAB's last ever Conference USA tournament.
Oh, boy. Oh,
we'll find that out in
yes.
June when the final decision is made. And I would anticipate, I don't think UAB is going to stay in Conference USA. I have a feel they may be there next year for basketball.
Did you see the news today? It was.
No, I did not.
Okay, real quick. I debated putting this in news and notes, but opted not to. But we'll go ahead and say it. UAB President Ray Watts made a statement about, and this was football related, about the cost of living stipend that was passed. And indicated that it was an extra expense that they did not feel UAB could afford, and that factored into the decision. The conference commissioner, Bratowski, am I saying that right? His name? Yeah. Came out and issued a statement saying, along the lines of, I wish I had it here so I could read it, but he basically just said, that is entirely overblown. The money that the conference is getting from the football playoff more than offsets what the cost of living stipends would be for football and all other sports. So essentially, the man that the UAB president is trying to convince to let him stay in the league, in a very diplomatic way, just called him a big fat freaking liar. Not good.
Well, I mean, my personal opinion here is that there are strings being pulled behind him, and that what we are hearing here from UAB is the excuses why to try to justify, the pure stupidity here of this decision, because in truth, people behind the scenes just did not want UAB playing football anymore. But
yeah, and I don't think people in front of the scenes at Conference USA don't want them playing in Conference USA anymore.
I can't blame them.
Yeah.
But UAB is going to be hosting this tournament. UAB is right now sitting in third place at 7-2, and it's a team that's tied for fourth place, and I still think is the best team in this conference, and that's this Old Dominion team. Which may still have a shot at an at-large bid if they literally win out here.
Yeah, they would have to win out, and I think they would have to at least get it up into a tie for first. Now, that could easily be done. I think they have game. Do you have their schedule up in front of you?
Yeah, they still have a home game against Louisiana Tech and a home game against Western Kentucky.
Okay,
they don't play UAB again, so they need to make up one more game on all three of those teams, but they can. If they win out, they will at least pull within a game of everybody else.
Yes. Okay. All right. So again, this is an exciting. We talked about this briefly last night. Between La Tech, Western Kentucky, and Old Dominion, is there room for one of them if one of those teams went out to get inside the bubble, or is Old Dominion the only one?
I lost you there for a second, David. You still there?
Yes, I am still here. Okay. Again, just Western Kentucky, La Tech, and Old Dominion. If one of those teams wins out, is there room inside the bubble for all three of those teams, or is Old Dominion the only one?
I think that this conference only chance for this conference to be a two-bid league is if Old Dominion wins out and and somebody else gets the automatic bid. If we're going to talk about another team that could be in that same type of situation, win out, it's probably Louisiana Tech. I mean, they don't have any great wins, but they have a lot of wins. I mean, it's really tough to look at their schedule. I mean, their best win would be a win that they haven't gotten yet, which is the win at Old Dominion on February 21st. When you go over to Western Kentucky, I just don't see it there. They do have a road win at Ole Miss, but they have more bad losses, including
Right.
Belmont and Stony Brook, and
Yeah.
they don't. I mean, I guess they also have that chance for the win at Old Dominion. So it's just it's tough for me to say that either one of these teams can actually get up there. Maybe they get in the discussion, but I think
Yeah.
it's a brief discussion on the, and they end up in the seventh or eighth from the bottom of the
Right.
field, just missing out.
And again, this is true for everyone, but it's especially true for a lot of our under the radar leagues. Western Kentucky got off to a little bit of a slow start, as did Murray State, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit. You got to win in November. You do. So, anyway.
Over in the Horizon League, we've been talking up Green Bay a lot this season.
Yeah. Oh, look
I
at
mean,
this.
unfortunately, they lost the game at Cleveland State. They are now in what's actually a three-way tie for first and a four-way tie in the loss column for
Right.
first.
And one of those teams is Oakland, which is so shocking, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, this Oakland team has home wins over Valparaiso and Green Bay already, but I think this Oakland team will fall off of the standings here
Yeah, I
as we
do
go
as
on.
well.
But let's start by talking first about this Valpo team, David. I am just based on the quantity of wins alone. I'm starting to look at them as somebody that might get a little bit of discussion in the committee room if they can keep winning.
If they can keep winning and finish in first place outright, and by I mean they got to win them all because look at the quality of those wins. They really got out there and played the pastry cart.
Yeah, I mean they do have a neutral court win over Murray State. That is the best one.
That is the best one. And again, Murray State is a good team. They have beat to get inside the bubble. You basically have to win them all or beat some other teams that are also inside the bubble. I don't think they've beaten any NIT caliber teams outside of Murray State and did they beat Green Bay? I forget.
No, they lost at Green Bay. They do
Okay.
have the home game against Green Bay left still, though.
Yeah, but outside of Murray, I don't even think they have any NIT wins. That will work against them in a huge way. But if they're a first placed outright team and if they can get that RPI into the uh, I don't see it. I really don't. This is a fun Valpo team. Winning in first basically puts them as finishing first outright. As you know, it puts them in a situation that they've been in before where they're hosting the conference tournament and buying into the semis. This is winning first is a or finishing first is a big deal in this league. I don't see them landing inside the bubble. And I think Green Bay is literally out of strikes. They could still get in, but it's not a slam dunk, even winning out.
Right, but Green Bay obviously does have the win at Miami. Does have a home win against Georgia State that has started to play a little better after a disastrous early part of January.
Yeah.
Has a win over that Florida Gulf Coast team and a pretty good Evansville team as well. They've got a little more meat on their resume. They did win at Valpo also, which is a lot better win than Valpo has.
Right, yes.
But yes, so this Green Bay team, I think, yeah, you're right. They have to win out. They cannot lose a game again until the conference championship, and it probably has to be a conference championship game against Valparaiso. So it's
right.
a top 100 loss and not a outside the top 100 loss.
And then, we got Cleveland State up there as well. The
they're
thing
probably worth it. A little bit of talk here with the ex-Rutgers coach Gary Waters at the helm there.
Yeah, and I realize we all love Gary Waters. Actually, I don't mind Gary. He did well at Kent State. I actually had a lot of confidence in him.
He did really well at Kent State, got the Rutgers job out of it, and did not do very well at Rutgers.
Yeah, but he's done okay at Cleveland State. I mean, they've gone to, I think, one tournament, and they've had some fairly decent teams. They're not bad this year, at least not in conference. Now, again, they have one win against the top 150, I think. So really unimpressive profile overall, but the one win was against Green Bay, and it wasn't a close game. I mean, they just blew Green Bay out of the building.
Yeah, what they did non-conference was pretty disgusting, though. They lost at Savannah State. They lost to Eastern Illinois. They have some bad losses here. I mean, they did play a tough. I got to give them credit. They did schedule. They played Louisville, Iona, Virginia, VCU. They played teams non-conference. They have a solid strength of schedule. 130 is solid for this type of level of conference.
Right. So again, really fun league. We're log jammed at the top with a lot at stake, with home court advantage and a double bye for the first place team. I think you and I think Valpo and Green Bay are going to kind of run away from everybody else. But for now, I mean, Cleveland State's right in there.
David, moving over to the Ivy League here.
Oh boy.
Uh, I've been saying all season, it's okay, it's okay. Harvard's my team. Harvard's my team. Harvard's my team. It's looking at these resumes closer and closer. I'm having trouble still saying that.
Yeah.
With Yale swept the trip to Columbia and Cornell
Right.
last weekend.
In the win at Columbia, I mean, this is a fairly decent Columbia team. It's not easy to win there. They went in there and won. Cornell, it is very easy to win there. Unless you're Cornell, then it's hard.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at the same time, Harvard has already lost at home to Dartmouth. They struggled at Princeton. Now they blew Penn out of the water last weekend, but they struggled at Princeton.
That was a large. What is wrong with this Harvard team? This was a Harvard team that they were on the 12 line. Refresh my memory. Were they inside the bubble? I think they were. Were they inside the first? Or were they sandwiched in between the first four?
Not in our last bracket, but they have been earlier this season.
No, not ours. Last year.
Last year, I would have to check that. I don't remember.
Okay, but they won. They got out of the round of 64. They had much of that team back, and they can't get out of the Ivy. I mean, it's just kind of an astounding. One of the more shocking underperformances of the year so far.
Between Wesley Saunders, Siani Chambers, Steve Mondomisi, they've got talent on this team.
I mean, this is a team that you would think would be a legitimate top 40 team, and they're going to miss the NIT from the looks of it now.
Right. Well, huge weekend coming up for them. They are Friday night. They're at Brown, which is the team that beat Providence, and even more importantly, Saturday night they're at Yale. They go 2-0. I'm right back on the Harvard bandwagon for winning the Ivy League.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked if they went 0-2 in those games if they lost them both.
I wouldn't either. And again, Ivy streaming, are those games going to be available? Because I know the Ivy charges, but we'll certainly be getting those.
Those games actually will only be available through the Ivy League website, I believe, this weekend. So you're gonna have to pay. You have to pay to watch those games. Although
it's not, we'll certainly be. We'll be getting that.
Yeah. Well, the American Sports The American Sports Network has picked up a Friday night Ivy League game, but that's not the game they're doing this week. I think they're doing. They're going to be doing the Penn at Cornell game. I guess they want to get every team in there. But that's the only reason to show Penn at Cornell.
Right. Well, we'll be dipping into the Hoops HD budget and picking up that Harvard Yale game because that is a big one.
Coming up next is the Metro Atlantic Conference. Iona has 9-2 in conference. I don't think they have. Their head coach is Tim Cluse, who.
Yes.
He has become a verb.
yes.
But again, we only won Clusing since January 1st, David.
Yeah, I know, and I thought we were going to see one over the weekend. Really bizarre ending to that St. Peter's game. St. Peter's, by the way, awful. And I thought, again, they're Clusing. They trailed for much of the game. I believe they needed to force overtime just to win the game. It went in overtime. It was a real emotional game, real chippy. Again, what you see out of your typical conference game. A little bit of a shoving match to end the game. Fortunately, nothing happened, no ejections or suspensions. But, I mean, they didn't Cluse in the sense that they won the game, but they did Cluse in the sense that you're sweating out St. Peter's at home and needed to force overtime to beat them. But still, on paper, Iona has done really well. Like you mentioned against January, their RPI is really healthy. It's in the 50s right now.
Yeah, they got a 56 RPI. They're 2 games up on the rest of the conference. Right now, you got a 3-way tie between Rider, Manhattan, and Monmouth, and I just don't think there's anybody else in the conference that's close enough to them. The most dangerous threat to them is the 6th place Siena Saints, and why would that be, David?
Why is that?
because the conference tournament is in Albany this year.
Yes, it is. If they make it that now, again, this would be a very Iona thing to do. They run away from the league and then they lose in the quarters, or they go up 20 in the second half and end up losing. I'm sure we all recall the like Tim Cluse. We knew about him. Was this 2012? It was either 12 or 11. I'm almost certain it was 12.
Right.
And this Iona team all year long, looked really good. It was Cluse's second year there, and
they were 15-3 in conference that season.
Right. And all throughout November and December, they had a big lead on Purdue and blew it. And this was when Purdue was a tournament caliber team. There were several others where they had second half leads and blew it, and 9-point leads at the under 4 timeout, and blew it. And you're like, my God, they just can't seem to make the proper adjustments and hold on. They get into the NCAA tournament
through an at-large bid.
Yeah, through an at-large bid.
After they choked in the semifinals of the.
Yes, after they blew a second half lead. I don't remember that specifically, but I'm pretty sure they did in the semifinals. They get into the NCAA tournament against BYU. They have a 25-point lead in the second half, and Tim Cluse doesn't change a thing, doesn't call timeout, does not switch up anything, doesn't make a substitute, and they lose the game. And hence the term Clusing was born from that. Again,
so this was a first 4 game,
yes,
78-72 loss to BYU in 2012.
And again, they were outscored by 31 points in the final 15 minutes. Now, again, Clusing is not sucking. Maris sucks. I don't know who their coach is, but Clusing is doing well in blowing it.
Yeah. You have to be a good team before you can Cluse. So
right, yeah.
All credit to Tim Cluse for building a great team. You build a great team and then you just lose a game that makes zero sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Right.
When you are Providence and you lose at home to Brown, that's Clusing.
Yes. Right.
Over in the Mid-American Conference, I've got to say that this MAC season is
unreal.
I'm getting excited about this conference tournament here because anybody can win this conference tournament.
Right.
And this is a wide-open conference right now.
Yeah, we like campus sites for conference tournaments. In this case, I think if I'm counting this right, we have 6 teams separated by 1 game. Not quite the Big South, but and these are all like Akron, Kent, Bowling Green, Central, Toledo, West. I mean, not only are they separated by 1 game, they're schools that cannot stand each other. And you know what?
Separated by about 5 miles too, right?
Yeah. and with that little separation and that much hate, it's like, you know what? Let's just have a king of the ring, throw them all in there, and the last man standing wins. This is a show in Cleveland every year. It's going to be that way this year. It really is unfortunate. We touched upon this last week about how hard it is for teams to run away from this league and get the automatic bid, seemingly harder here than other league, or I'm sorry, an at-large bid, seemingly harder here from other leagues. There's a smattering of teams, not many, that do enough out of conference to put themselves in a situation to where if they avoid bad losses and finish first and run away from the league, they'll be inside the bubble. But we never see it happen because this league just beats itself up.
Well, and this league kind of really didn't do enough non-conference. Right. Really didn't schedule enough non-conference.
It did not.
There's only one. The only team with a top 100 strength of schedule is Ohio University, who's 7-12 and the worst team in the conference.
Right. Yes.
Everybody else's strength of schedule is in the mid 150s. I mean, you look at Central Michigan, 15-4 overall. Wow, are they maybe an at-large candidate? No, they have a 256 strength of schedule on the season. It's not even close.
And that's a very good point. The Big East, the Big 12, they beat themselves up, but they have multiple teams coming in with multiple wins out of conference against tournament caliber teams. This league does not.
Yeah, you have 5 teams in this conference with 6 or fewer losses right now, and nobody that's even close to an at-large grade are. But maybe this is a conference issue. Maybe the conference needs to sit down in the offseason and say, "Hey, listen, guys, you got to schedule better non-conference. The Missouri Valley did it.
Yeah.
The SEC did it this year. The SEC
Right.
told all the teams, you better schedule better. They have, and look at it, they're looking at 6 or 7 bids right now. So
Yeah, they really are, and that came from the commissioner.
right.
I mean, he didn't mandate it, but he basically explained the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Over in the MEAC, very disappointing game this week. North Carolina Central stepped out of conference to go play East Tennessee State down in Johnson City there, and led most of the game and just kind of fell apart at the end. And very disappointing loss there for a team that I thought was, capable of winning in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I was never as high on them as you are. I think they're clearly the class of the MEAC. I believe this tournament's in Norfolk, so
Yes.
They do. It's not on Norfolk's campus, but you could foresee it being a crowd partial to Norfolk State. So it's not going to be the easiest tournament to win. But yeah, a little surprising them going to. Now it was a road game, but it was a road game against a SoCon team that you would expect them to be able to beat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a middle-of-the-pack SoCon team. It's not an awful East Tennessee State team. They're in 4th place in the SoCon. But if you are a team that's capable of winning the NCAA tournament, you've got to be able to win that game.
Right, yeah.
I think I was talking about them as being a 14 seed. Maybe they're a 15 seed now, especially if they slip up again during the regular season.
Right.
They have been dominating this conference, really. There's no one else even close to them other than maybe this Norfolk State team.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then again, we have the centenary candidate here, Florida A&M, and the reason their case is so strong is because there are 6 other schools that have sub 300 RPIs. The potential for awful losses just surpasses anyone else in any other league that's in contention for that award.
Yeah, and if you look at KenPom, their best chance of a victory right now is their final game of the regular season, which is a home game against Savannah State. They've got a 28% chance of victory.
Yes.
The only other game that's more than a 10% chance of victory is February 14th, a home game against North Carolina A&T. They will not have a shot in the conference tournament to pick up the win because they are ineligible for it. So
right. So we will.
This is it. 7 games left.
We may be on location for that final game.
We may have to send you to Savannah, Dave. Moving over to the Missouri Valley Conference, is there anybody else worth talking about here besides our 2 non-under-the-radar schools at this point?
I don't think so. Evansville is not having a tournament year like we thought they might, or like you thought they might, but they are much improved. I would like to see them get a postseason bid. I think they can get into the NIT perhaps. If not the NIT, then the CIT. But other than that, I don't see anything here, barring Evansville winning out, which I don't think is realistic. There's no one even close to the bubble.
Right. I agree with you. This is not a conference that, unless something crazy happens in the conference tournament, this is a 2-bid league, and that's it.
Right.
Northeast Conference, we're finally starting to see something happen here where a team is starting to finally wake up and kind of pull away a little bit, and that is a team that's one of 5 teams. There are 5 teams out there in Division I that have never played in the NCAA tournament and yet been a member of D1 since it began in 1948.
That's amazing.
We could see at least two of them in this NCAA tournament this year. One of them is that Bill and Mary team we already previously discussed. Second one, well, let me run through the other 3 first. We've got the Citadel out of the SoCon, which we're not going to see in the tournament this year.
No.
We've got Army, who has an outside shot in the Patriot League. We'll get them in a minute.
Yeah.
We have Northwestern out of the Big Ten.
How is it Northwestern has never been to one NCAA tournament? Maybe. Well, you got to keep in mind there's just no good high school. But never mind.
And the 5th one is St. Francis of Brooklyn, who now has a 1-game lead.
Yeah.
In conference, and this may be their year as well as Bill and Mary's year, at least.
Right. You still with us here, Chad? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the thing about St. Francis Brooklyn, if they finish first, as they're going through the conference tournament, about to go to the NCAA tournament potentially at the campus sites, I mean that place is going to be off. I don't care what you're doing, what else is on. You need to be watching that game.
They have a great home court there.
Yeah,
The I forget what they call that center there. They have in
yeah,
Brooklyn. It's not the old one where they used to play at the old Paramount Theater. They did
right.
upgrade their facilities, but they get a great atmosphere there, especially for their rivalry games they have against LIU Brooklyn, which
Yeah.
there's an outside shot that could be their quarterfinal game in the Northeast if things play
Oh my
out right,
God.
which could be dangerous for them,
It
honestly.
really could be. I mean, that is a bandball. I don't think most of the people that don't watch under the radar, which is most people, are used to like your arenas and coliseums. These little gymnasiums get loud, they get raucous. The fans are almost way more a part of the game at a place like St. Francis, Brooklyn, or Bryant, or throughout the Metro Atlantic than they are in these big stadiums and arenas. Would you? I'm not saying that it's easy to go into a big arena and win, but like they are pretty much like they are right on top of the game in this little loud facility.
Well, I'll tell you that I've gone to two games in the past few weeks. One was an NJIT game, a tiny little arena there that holds about
Yeah.
1,000 people. The other one was a Monmouth game where they've got a really nice multi-purpose activity center there. It holds about 4,000. I was just way louder at NJIT.
It is.
It really was.
And you can actually, I mean, when you go to inbound the ball and you're basically standing next to the people in the first row, the fans are right on top
Yep.
of you. And I mean, that is going to be a show. Like if St. Francis Brooklyn finishes first, every conference tournament game they play, you're going to want to tune in and watch.
Yeah, it should be a fun conference tournament.
Yeah, it always is.
Do want to mention this Bryant team that took Pitt to the wire on the road this week. They did lose the game.
Yeah. Now, what
Um,
is the story? That is a odd game to schedule in January. Was this canceled or rescheduled?
no, it actually was. Well, it was a combination of Pitt had no weekday game this week. They played last weekend, ACC play. They're going to be playing this upcoming weekend, so it was an off week for them. As far as Bryant goes, they had just played over the weekend at Robert Morris, so it was able to just spend Sunday there in the area and play a game at Pittsburgh on Monday. That was the reason for the scheduling. It kind of fit into Bryant's schedule coming off of the Robert Morris game to go to Pittsburgh as well. And Pittsburgh said, "Hey, we don't want to take the week off. Let's get a game in." That's kind of the whole
Yeah.
reasoning behind that. So
Okay.
it made a little bit of a sense, at least.
Yeah.
Uh, let's move on now to the Ohio Valley Conference, I guess, where another team that is undefeated in its conference is the Murray State Racers.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough Murray State team. They can't get inside the bubble even if they win out. Which even if they finished, I believe that would be 26-4 if they, or is it 27-4?
Yeah, and that would be because they have a strength of schedule well over 200, I believe.
Yeah. And again, as good as they've been, I don't think they have a single win against a team that's anywhere close to the NIT. But this is potentially a very dangerous team in the round of 64. There's no one else in the conference that's anywhere close to them because it's Murray. They tend to they don't cluse as much as cluse, but they do have a tendency to cluse. I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped a game or two between now and the end, but if they can get to Nashville, which I believe this is a ladder with two teams buying into the semis now,
Right.
they should be able to win this. And if they're on the 13 or 14 line, I'm not going to say they're going to win, but they could easily ruin someone's day in the round of 64.
Well,
They're
I
good.
agree. I agree with you that I would not have been shocked if they lost the game, but the next two best teams in the conference are Eastern Kentucky and Belmont. They're both in the other division, which means they only play
Yeah.
Murray once, and Murray's already beaten both of them. So there's really not that many chances left to close. I mean, their schedule is they've got two games with Austin Peay, two games with Southeast Missouri State, Eastern Illinois, SIU Edwardsville, and Tennessee Martin. I don't see a loss there. I
Right.
guess their toughest game left is that UT Martin game to end the season, and this is a very, very mediocre UT Martin team.
Yeah. Really bad. There are a lot of bad teams in this conference.
We mentioned the Patriot League briefly when we were discussing Army a few minutes ago. We now
Yeah.
have a first-place tie at 7-3 between Bucknell and Colgate.
Really bizarre. I'm assuming you watched that game.
Yes.
The bizarre. I did not get an explanation as to what happened until Jerry Palm from CBS posted it. I believe it was on his Facebook or maybe it was Twitter. This is the rule. Well, you were watching. Tell us what happened.
Well, I didn't read what Jerry posted, so maybe I don't know the rule here. But
Okay.
Bucknell, who won the game, Colgate, I guess, got called for an offensive foul that nobody could seem to see on the replays.
Yes. Well, there was a whistle
Right.
on a replay, just an inexplicable whistle, a big commotion, and the Patriot League announcers who were doing a really good job. The referees never came over and gave them an explanation. Now, again, this was not on television; it was streamed. That may have had something to do with it, but
Right.
no one really knew what happened. It was just this inadvertent whistle.
And these were the Bucknell announcers.
These are the Bucknell announcers. Colgate gets the ball, and this is at a crucial moment at the end of overtime, and ends up winning the game by 2. Now, the explanation we got later, and this is a rule, you don't see it called often. It's the same in football. When a player goes out of bounds, steps out of bounds, and then comes back in, they cannot touch the ball until another player has. So if a point guard cannot essentially, if someone runs out of bounds and comes back in, you cannot pass it to that player until you've passed it to another player first. That was the call. It was the correct call. It is not something you see called very often. It's not something that's done that often, really. Very bizarre. Very. I guess is it even controversial? It was.
Well, I thought it was that you had to fully establish yourself inbounds.
Yeah.
And that might have been it. He may have had, not had fully established both feet in bounds.
When he caught the ball, he was standing out at the 3-point line. He was in bounds. Yeah, it was just bizarre, and a really important call in something that in a high stakes game that impacted the conference standings and potentially the conference tournament.
Right now, Colgate has now swept Bucknell, so they have the tiebreaker edge. Obviously, a lot of games left to play, and this conference, you've got 5 teams tied at 5-5, and 2 more at 4-6 right now. So it's still anybody's game here.
Right.
Let's swing right over to the Southern Conference, where Wofford is sitting at 9-1 in conference, 18-5 overall. Not an at-large bid-worthy record,
right.
but a really good team here, I think.
Yeah, they really are, and they won at NC State. That's sort of a backhanded compliment after what NC State did tonight. But again, this is a good team that is capable if they can get up on the 13 line. Could they get as high as 12?
I think they can, because I think right now I'd call them a 13 seed easily. And if they just keep winning, and there's no reason why this team is. I don't think they get close to that first 4 if they need it.
Right.
I mean, obviously a loss to Chattanooga is not awful, but that's the only other team in this conference that's really any good.
Yeah,
they have a glaringly bad loss. One of the more inexplicable losses of the season. Still on there.
I mean, it was more Clusing than Cluse, but
if we're talking about their loss to Citadel.
The Citadel. Without that, my God, they would look so much better without that loss to the Citadel. But this is a team that can give you fits, and if everything falls right, they might be able to get out of the round of 64. I mean, they're pretty good. I don't think anybody else in the league's close to them.
The other team I want to very quickly mention is just really an amazing score today. VMI, I know, David, you followed them a little bit also. This is a high-powered offense where this is a team that could easily score 100 points on any night against anybody. They may not win many games. They may lose 110 to 100, but they score a lot of points. They played UNC Greensboro tonight, the worst team in the Southern Conference, and had 23 points at halftime. They ended up losing the game here, 85 to 56, which is a little bit better. But I don't know when the last time VMI was held to 23 points.
Yeah, this is a team that typically averages 90, 100 a night. They run that, whatever you call it, almost the line chain system, where they want a shot up at every 6 seconds, and I don't know, pretty nuts.
It's just a pretty weird score out there. I just want to throw that out. Over in the Southland Conference, we had a lot of discussion about Stephen F. Austin last night.
Right.
Obviously, some of us think that they have a shot at large, but if they win out, others do not.
Right. They're good. I will give you that. And it just kind of sucks that they were in a situation where really the majority of their at-large resume was going to come within 2 weeks of each other in November. You know, they lost at Xavier, they lost at Baylor, and they did win at Memphis. And who was the other?
They lost that home game on the tip-off marathon to
Yes,
North
yes,
Iowa.
you're right, to Northern Iowa. All that happened out of the gate, and then there's just nothing left.
Right. Um, Over at the bottom of the Southland, Central Arkansas
Oh wow.
has fallen to 0-19. They held a 10-point lead tonight over a Northwestern State team that may be the third or fourth best team in this conference, a decent Northwestern State team by
Yeah.
Southland standards.
Right.
Blew the lead, lost by 3, so they
Oh.
remain poised to be in the centenary conversation should Florida A&M somehow win a
Yeah,
game.
should Florida A&M win a game, it might go to Central Arkansas.
Right, but that was they lost 110 to 108 to Northwestern State tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Over in the SWAC, it's still all about Texas Southern. There are 3 teams within a game of first place, but the other 2 are ineligible.
Yeah, what a piece of what a shit show. Yeah, Texas Southern has evened their record at 11-11, and they've really had to sweat out some really when I say really bad teams, they've had to really sweat out some SWAC teams in conference. I
They've
thought they
not
would
been
run
as
away with
dominant
it.
conference as we thought they would be at all.
Yeah, correct. Even though they're 8-1.
Alabama State also 8-1, ineligible for the SWAC tournament. Southern 7-2, ineligible. There are 10 teams in this conference, 2 that are ineligible. The SWAC last year allowed all 10 teams to play in this conference tournament, and if an ineligible team had won it all, the team they beat in the finals would have gotten the automatic bid. It's actually a format that the A-Sun has picked up this year. They're going to let Northern Kentucky play, and should Northern Kentucky win that tournament, whoever they beat in the finals would get the automatic bid. The SWAC did release its a PDF form out of his bracket on its website this past week that shows 9 teams playing in the SWAC tournament. I actually have a communication out. We're waiting for information back from the SWAC to try to figure out, is it Southern that's not playing at all because of their whole APR mess, or what's going on there?
So, and as soon as we know, we'll report that. So.
Yeah, but as of right now, one of either Alabama State or Southern will not be in the SWAC tournament. The other one will.
Okay.
I think it's Southern that will not be playing in the SWAC tournament.
Right, probably so.
Over in the Summit League, South Dakota State now still has a half-game lead on North Dakota State.
Right.
They've
Continues to look impressive. Blasted Denver over the weekend. A talented but bad Denver team.
A Denver team that's now 9-13 and in 7th place in the conference.
Right, but South Dakota State again looking really good. I don't know when those 2 play each other, but it should be fun. And the tournament's in the Dakotas, so.
Well, the tournament is in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Right.
They will play each other. North Dakota State won the first matchup back in January 24th at home. The return game at South Dakota State is February 14th.
Okay, sounds good.
Moving on to the Sun Belt's up next. Georgia State, are they back in contention here, David?
I think they are. They really seem to have fixed whatever problems they were having throughout most of January. 8-3 in the league, 15-7 overall. They're nowhere near the bubble like we thought they were going to be coming into the season, and even going into conference play. But whatever issues they were having, I don't know if it was locker room issues with the team. Ron Hunter sounded really upset in a couple of interviews he gave, but they appear to have ironed things out and are back on the right track. They really are the team with the highest ceiling in this conference.
I would agree with that, although right now they are chasing Georgia Southern, who has been surprisingly good.
All year long, really.
15-4 overall. Now, they played the 3-12 strength of schedule in the country. They haven't beaten anybody of note, but when you're in a bid league where you've got to win the conference tournament to get in, which is where they are right now, they're 8-2 in conference, and they're going for that number 1 seed. There's a double bye there in the Sun Belt tournament. Now, that's played in New Orleans, which means it's played in Louisiana Lafayette's backyard, so that's
Yeah.
a bit of a problem.
Right.
But
Nobody goes anyway. Yeah.
the West Coast Conference, obviously
Oh,
Gonzaga is one of the best teams in the country. I
yeah.
think we're done with talking at-large bids here beyond them, though.
I think so. I mean, if St. Mary's wins out, and that would mean beating Gonzaga twice. No, it wouldn't, because they wouldn't be able to face them in the semis.
Right.
If St. Mary's wins out and loses to Gonzaga in the finals, they might get a look. Anything short of that, I don't think so.
Well, how about if BYU wins out, gets a road win at Gonzaga, gets a home win over St. Mary's?
Probably so.
I think they might get some discussion here. I mean, their losses are not that bad, other than the loss to San Diego.
Right.
I think they're both in the same situation right now. I don't know that their profiles are that different at the moment, honestly.
Yeah, I don't either. So again, I think they'll get some discussion.
I hate to talk BYU, but
yeah.
from
But I don't
marketing
think they
standpoint.
advance that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And last and certainly
least.
uh,
Um,
let's see here. We have Seattle is 10-10,
yes.
fourth place. Grand Canyon's ineligible as a transitional team. They're 12-11.
Yeah, tied for there's a three-way or four-way tie for third place.
Third place there, yeah.
Tie.
UMKC 9-14 overall, but second place at 4-2,
That's just unbelievable.
and a win over Missouri.
Yeah, and a win over Missouri, which God.
And New Mexico State, who I guess is still our pick to win it all by default here.
Yeah, on their way to Dayton. I hope they enjoy it. They're on their way to Dayton is number 68.
Well, I'll tell you that if they pull off the double, they win the conference regular season, they win the conference tournament, and you have 2 or 3 upsets in some of these smaller conferences. Somebody crazy wins the MEAC tournament. Somebody not Texas Southern wins the SWAC tournament.
Yeah.
There's a chance they could bounce up into that 16 line and avoids the first 4, but they need a lot of things to fall their way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, I think that's everything in terms of the conferences. Do we want to run through our top 10 list real quick here? I know we're getting through things here. David, number 1, I have Green Bay.
Yeah, I believe I still have Old Dominion at number 1. Where do I have them? I still have Old Dominion at number. I moved them back up to number 1. I think they had some hiccups, but when you look at everything they've done this year, nobody else, I think, in the top 10 has done anything quite like that. So I like this Green Bay team, but I really think they needed to win at Cleveland State. You need to win games that aren't easy to win, and they didn't.
Well, I flip-flopped them. I had Old Dominion at number 2, Green Bay at 1. And
you're not going to believe this. I actually have, because again, this is our top 10, not guessing the committee. I have SFA at number 2 ahead of Green Bay.
Oh, wow. I have SFA at 3, so we have the same top 3 teams, just a little different order.
Because this SFA team is good. I think they are. It's just that I wish they wouldn't work so hard at keeping that such a secret.
Keep it a secret by not playing anybody that anybody's ever heard of before.
Yes.
At number 4, I have this Valpo team. I'm starting to get high on them, and again, like you said, this is not our guessing the committee. This is where I think they are. I think that they're up there.
Yeah, they certainly are at some point. I think I had them around 5 or 6. I had Murray State, I believe, at number 4.
I have them at 6. Yeah.
Okay.
And I have Wofford in there as well.
Yeah, Wofford. I have them right in that range too. So
my next 2 teams, I have Louisiana Tech at 7, and your Long Beach team, I think, making their debut in my top 10 list at number 8.
Yeah, I had Long Beach a little higher. I had them, I believe, at 7, and Louisiana Tech right where you did. And again, this is a talented Louisiana Tech team that has just cloosed one too many times. They can't get in without the automatic, I don't think, but they are really good.
My last 2 teams, I don't think you agreed with either of these, are Akron and Iona. And by putting Akron in there, I'm kind of saying MAC team of the day is really what I really made by.
Yeah. One of the teams I had up here, it's a team we talked about earlier, is this UC Davis team. I really love what they've done. I think they are one of the better teams out there, and they deserve it. So, and I could see Iona up that high.
Right.
I mean, they really. They really are good when they play up to their potential.
Did you have anybody else on your list here, David?
Did I? I don't
I
have
thought
it.
you had an 11th team.
Oh, yes. Honorable mention, the
Okay.
Houston Cougars.
All right.
Right out of the American Athletic.
They have their last 2 home games against the team that won a national championship in between those games, beating them both times. How was that for?
Yeah.
Just an amazing achievement by the Kelvin Sampson's Houston Cougars.
Yes, very much so. We're very happy for them.
All right. Do you think we want to just really quickly run through some highlighted games coming up in the next week or so?
Yeah,
just try to just quickly here. We've got a couple big MAC games coming up the next few nights. Kent State at Western Michigan is one that I highlighted for tomorrow night.
Yeah, and again, that one's another MAC conference rival. So.
And Detroit at Valpo is, this Detroit team has a little bit of life with Juwan Howard Jr. on it.
They've been disappointing this year. That is a notable game, but I think Valpo's going to win that one fairly handily. I mean, I like this Valpo team, and Detroit's just been too disappointing.
Coming up Thursday night, Wofford, our team out of the SoCon there, travels to this East Tennessee State team who is fresh off of that win over North Carolina Central. Could be a trap game for Wofford here.
Yeah, it really could be. And that one is, and again, East Tennessee State, it is kind of a showcase for them. They should be jacked for that one. It's not going to be an easy one for them to win. East Tennessee State, they're well supported.
Yeah.
So, again, definitely worth tuning into for that one.
Another game here Thursday night, a big rivalry game. Milwaukee's at Green Bay. Now, this Milwaukee team is bad this year, but it is a rivalry game.
It is. It was, I think, at its best the last 2 years. This year, it's just kind of a huge mismatch. Green Bay should stomp them. Where the fans going to be ready for them?
Belmont's at Eastern Kentucky in the battle of the second and third best teams in the Ohio Valley Conference.
Yeah.
That can be on ESPNU, actually, so national TV for that one.
Yeah, it should be a fun atmosphere. Unfortunately, there aren't a whole lot of stakes in that game.
Eastern Washington at Montana. That's a big road test for Eastern Washington coming up Thursday night here.
Yeah, and again, it's a Montana team, real disappointing prior to conference play. They've been looking much better in conference. It's not easy to win at Montana. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. It's not. I mean, again, Eastern Washington should win that one, but they will be challenged.
And also UC Davis at UC Irvine in a battle among 2 of the 3 teams tied for first place in the Big West. That could be a pretty good one there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I'm really hoping it's on television because I cannot stand the Big West stream.
Well, the good news is that will be streamed on ESPN3.
Good.
It was a wild card pickup by ESPN3.
Okay, good decision.
Friday night we got a couple of Ivy League games, including Dartmouth at Yale, Harvard at Brown, and High Point is at Coastal Carolina in the late game on ESPNU Friday evening.
Yeah, that's going to be worth tuning into. So, again, kind of looking forward to that. When you wish it was a stakes game, it's not. Predetermined sites.
Coming up on Saturday, what is allegedly the #1 rivalry in the Atlantic Sun, although I don't agree with this point. Florida Gulf Coast is at Stetson.
Yeah.
I still think it's North Florida Jacksonville, but
it is. That's ridiculous. Stetson should have a decent crowd for that game, but don't be. That's not the biggest rivalry.
And we mentioned the Fisher College at NJIT game, obviously going to clinch that winning record.
Right.
Harvard at Yale, the big game Saturday night.
Yeah, real big here. And again, this is about. The thing about the Ivy League format is you don't have the stakes games as far as getting inside the bubble goes, and even out of conference, you don't feel that same sense of urgency in November and December that a lot of other UTR teams feel. This is a huge stakes game because this is it. I mean, is Yale going to open up a 2-game lead over Harvard, or is Harvard going to catch them?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Huge. And this is there's some heat. I mean, as you know, Harvard, Yale, there's some heat between these two.
Yeah. Couple other games here. UC Irvine off of that Davis game now has to go to Long Beach State on Saturday. So tough weekend coming up for Irvine here. They go 2-0 here. They become our pick, I think, to win this conference.
Absolutely. And again, they've looked a lot better after looking disappointing throughout much of the out of conference portion, especially when you see them take play with Arizona and look really good at times, but awful at others.
Louisiana Tech is at Middle Tennessee, which was the trap for Old Dominion. They're going to try to knock off another top team in the Conference USA.
Yeah, they're at UAB Thursday, so right. Big week for Louisiana Tech.
And Bill and Mary's at UNC Wilmington. This Wilmington team has been very tough in conference play. Has a couple big road wins already. Now, they did beat Bill and Mary at William & Mary, but now this is their revenge game at home. If they're going to stick with William & Mary, they got to win this one.
Yeah, agreed. And again, it's a chance for Bill and Mary, like you said, to open it up a little bit.
Coming up on Sunday, Marist is at Iona in a classic opportunity for Tim Cluse to Cluse.
Right. Oh, if they don't win that one, we're... God.
And Oakland is at Valpo. This is the revenge game for Valpo. They lost the game at Oakland earlier this year, so keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, and again, that's a logjam, the Horizon League, those 4 teams, so these are 2 of the 4.
And one last game I want to mention heading into Monday night, Stephen F. Austin, who we just discussed, is at Northwestern State. This is probably, despite Northwestern State having trouble with Central Arkansas today, I think this may be their SFA's toughest road game left.
It is. It's the toughest road game remaining, but it's still not that tough.
Right. Well, it is a road game, so it's you always have to bring a little extra to win on the road.
Right.
But with that, anything else we want to discuss here tonight, David?
I believe we hit on all the big topics. Again, I'm just looking forward to this bourbon tasting tomorrow. Again, on our irregular night, we're normally on Wednesdays. We should be back on Thursday. The logistics may be a little difficult, but we're going to try and make it work.
All right. Well, on that note, then, everybody have a great one, and we'll talk to you real soon.